Hello and very welcome to my very first video podcast in English. If you're watching this, you might already know me, but if you don't, I'm just going to introduce myself quite briefly. I'm Annette Petavy. I'm a Swedish crochet and sometimes knit designer, and I've been living in France for the last 29 years. Not quite 30. Huh? So, if my English sounds a bit strange and if I make funny mistakes, well, now you know why. English is my third language after Swedish and French, and this is the best I can do, so I hope you'll be patient. I used to have a bilingual blog in French and English because when I started to work in crochet, I did it in English. I was one of the first persons, I think, to work with Kim Worker on her Crochet Me website that she started in, I don't know, 2001. Yeah, perhaps 2001, because I remember I was pregnant with my son and he's born in November 2001. So I think that was about the time. And later I worked quite regularly with the American magazine Intuitive Crochet. I've also worked with magazines in the UK. And in France, but that's in French. And the past few years I have worked a lot on developing my business in France, locally here. So that meant that there was quite some content that wasn't that relevant to readers outside France, and I unfortunately stopped writing a bilingual blog and made things easy for myself, and now it's only in French. So I thought to make some more content in English, why not a YouTube channel? Why not videos in English? And thank you to my English-speaking friends who encouraged me to do this. Because, you know, it's a bit scary to put out a video where you're speaking in a language that is not your own. There are also other ways to stay in touch, and the best one, I think, is to subscribe to my monthly newsletter in English. So it comes out once a month, as you would expect from a monthly newsletter, and it contains, well, some news about what I publish on my website. I talk a little bit more about the website in a few moments. And also every month a crochet tutorial. Now, this tutorial sometimes is quite in-depth. Sometimes, as last month, is short and simple. Last month, one of my friends here in Lyon asked me how she could try to make less visible the seams in the circles she was working in solid double crochet. So she was making flat rounds, circles in double crochet. And when you work in the round, well, when you work flat as well, but once you've finished one round, you have to move your hook up to the height of the following round. And the most common way of doing this, as I think you know, is to chain 3 and count these 3 chains as the first double crochet in the round. Please note that I use US crochet lingo. If you're from Britain, you will have to translate. This is the case in all my patterns, even if I spell color in the British way. It's not logical, I know, but that's the way it is. Okay, so in my last newsletter, I simply discussed how you can work your flat DC circles in solid DC and try perhaps not hide completely, but make this seem much less visible. And if you want to know about that, just send me an email and I'll give you the link to the newsletter. And if you want to subscribe to the upcoming newsletters, I will put in the link in the notes below the video. So, these videos are going to be short and I think almost completely unedited, because I needed to keep it short and simple to be able to put them out a little bit more often. I used to have an audio podcast in French, and over the years, let's say that my standards for this audio podcast became increasingly difficult to satisfy. At the end, it took me almost a week to do the podcast. And I'm someone who does a lot of different things. So spending a week on a podcast, be it audio or video, is just not feasible for me, because I know then I will stop doing them. So short, simple, not very well edited, but hopefully rather regular. As I mentioned, I have a website at AnnettePetavy.com where I have my blog, now only in French, and two shops, one in French, boutique.annettepetavy.com, or in English, shop.annettepetavy.com. So if you just go to annettepetavy.com, you come to the French shop, and up in the right corner you will find a small button, EN, to click, and it will take you to the English website, and so in particular the English shop. This website has quite a new look. If you've been to it before, I suggest that you go back and have a look at it. I had some technical issues with the old website. It was time to update the look and make it more accessible and visually interesting. And this was a good thing, because one of the technical issues was that in the English language shop, the PayPal option for payment did not show up. It was installed. I've used PayPal for years for accepting payments, but for some reason it didn't show up. So thanks a lot to all the patient customers who have emailed me and paid via PayPal invoice and waited for me to send them their pattern. But now it works. So you can pay by PayPal, download your pattern immediately, and you're done. On my website, and especially in the French shop, I also sell yarns, some of which are quite unique because they are custom made for me, others that are hand-picked from different European producers. And a couple of years ago, the French postal services decided that nothing should be sent outside France that was thicker than 3 centimeters, which is just a little bit more than an inch, or else it would cost a fortune. I have some sweet, sweet customers in Canada and Australia who have ordered in spite of the rather steep shipping cost I'm obliged to apply right now. Thank you very much. But with this new website, I've decided to work on new shipping options and different ways of packing my products. So over the coming weeks, I hope to be able to come back to you about that and let you know. Because I really enjoy designing. I really enjoy also publishing other people's designs to see how they work and to make them available to other people. But I think what really brings us to knitting and crochet is the love of the fiber and the love of the yarn. So I'd be very happy to be able to share that with people outside France as well. And today I'm going to talk about design. My latest design that you may already have seen on my website or on Ravelry. It's called Wave. And I will try to show it to you. It's a bit hard with the webcam. You can see it on the first page in my shop currently. So it's an asymmetrical triangle. It's a shape that's very, very popular right now, has been so for quite some time. I wanted to work with it too, of course, but it was clear to me from the start that I was going to do this in crochet, because I don't think the world really needs another knitted asymmetrical triangle, especially since I did not have any new or unique idea on how to construct it. There are lots of lovely designs out there, so I didn't think I had a lot to add. However, in crochet there are not so many, and it was a way also for me to apply my word for the year, which is to simplify. Because compared to many other designs I have made over the years, this one is relatively simple. But I hope perhaps a little bit clever. It starts here and you increase, and I wanted really to work with the stitch pattern. This is something that I find very interesting in crochet. When you design in crochet, very often the basic unit of design is pretty large. Of course, it can be a stitch, but in this type of shell pattern, well, it's the basic unit is really a shell, and that's quite big. Even like this, worked in a fingering yarn with the 3.5 millimeter hook. Well, the basic unit is quite big. Of course, you can deconstruct it, as I've done here, to incorporate the increases within the stitch pattern. So we have a smooth edge on this longer diagonal. And then on the shorter edge, I'm using the stitch pattern, the larger unit, the shell, working my decreases at the edge, not inside the stitch pattern this time, to create another look that we can assimilate to a border, because there's actually no border here. As you see, I worked this in a gradient yarn, and when you work in a gradient yarn, I think it's very important, unless you look for another effect, but to make it a one-piece pattern worked in the same direction, so you can really see how the color flows, in this case from a very light turquoise to a deep one. It can of course be done in any fingering weight gradient yarn of your choice. So I think this is an example of how yarn and idea work together to shape the final design. Because I could have worked a single crochet border, for example, on the upper edge, which is slightly curved because it's made that way. But that would have interrupted this flow of the color, and I think it would have made it less interesting. So this is quite a simple design, but I think it's rather effective. And once I had finished this first version, I couldn't really stop. So I made a second one. And I just finished it, so it's not blocked. Ooh, bad. I'm wearing an unblocked shawl. But, well, let's see. So this is in another yarn. You can see that it's not blocked because the border doesn't really show up. Promise, I'll block it after the recording, and I'll take some good pictures, you can see, because when I wear it, the color is quite true. It's a bit warmer and more intense in real life, but when I put it up to the camera, it's a bit washed out. This is done in my organic cotton yarn in one of the multicolored colorways that I call Sorbet on the Beach, because that's what it makes me think of. So this is also a fingering weight yarn, but slightly thicker. And in the gradient, I'm going to talk about it in a minute, the yarn is a little more lightweight. So I wanted to do this with 3 balls of organic cotton, and I made an estimation of when I should stop increasing and start decreasing. This estimation was not correct. So I couldn't do the last 5 rows. So I ripped the last ball of yarn plus a little. I placed my turning point a little 4 rows or earlier, since the increases are done on 4 rows. And it worked out. But now I think I have crocheted enough versions of this shawl for some time. So I wanted just to say a few words on the yarn used in this one. It's a gradient that's custom dyed for me, and it's not in the English shop because I'm still working on the shipping issues I talked about, and because I'm out of stock. So this is custom made for me by a French indie dyer, French-German indie dyer, because she's German but living in France. I work with several indie dyers and with a small French mill that dyes smaller batches, because the standard batch in a mill is 10 kilos per color, and at this moment, to me, that's a bit much, because you need a few colors to make a color range, and I prefer right now to work with this French mill that can make smaller color batches. I will be talking more about yarns in other podcasts when I hope to have some good suggestions for shipping it outside France. For now, it's perhaps enough to say that I love fiber, I love yarn, and I hope to be able to communicate this to you, as well as my love for design and crochet and knitting. I love knitting, but I'm passionate about crochet. So the wave pattern is available on my website and also on Ravelry in English. So you can make one too, in cotton or wool, as you like. And perhaps with a nice gradient that you have in your own stash and you want to use. Okay, I've been rambling on for almost 20 minutes, so I think it's time to stop now. Thank you for your patience if you have listened until now. I hope to see you again. I hope to be able to do a couple of short tutorials in the coming week. We'll see how that goes. See you soon. Bye bye.